Welcome, everybody, to the Sentinel Report. I am your host, Alex Newman. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful May 12th that the Lord has made. We've got some very special guests coming up for you. All this talk about UFOs that just won't leave the news. One of our guests has been studying this for decades. He's got a new book about it, and he says they're not little space aliens. In fact, something much, much more nefarious. We'll let you hear and judge for yourself. Also, an Israeli academic taking the war to the wokeness from an academic perspective. I think you're going to be blessed by hearing from him. But first, a word from the Word and our news segment. This comes out of Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13. The Bible says, "Whoever conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will obtain mercy." Folks, that's a good reminder. Hiding your sin is not only futile, it is counterproductive. So better to confess that little thing you stole, that person you lied to, that money you embezzled, just come clean. Okay. I know it doesn't seem like the best course of action, but it is. Now, turning to the really significant news, there's so much going on in the world. Obviously, we have a new Pope, Pope Leo the 14th, and the media is trying to frame him as more of a moderate, I guess, more of a centrist than Bergoglio Francis. And of course, that's not hard to be moderate or centrist when compared to Bergoglio. He, as everybody knows, including the leftists, was very, very far out on the left. But this new Pope, Leo the 14th, was picked by Francis and was complicit in many of the actions that Francis took that caused such an uproar within the church. He's also a sympathizer and even an apologist for Islam. And so this is going to be an interesting pontificate. We'll keep you updated as things go. We've been in discussions with a lot of Catholic scholars and theologians and journalists to try to get their perspective. And it seems like a lot of the damage that Francis did is here to stay. All right. If you look at some of the things Archbishop Vigano was warning about, I don't see those being reversed, right? The church's embrace of globalism, the church's embrace of wokeness, the church's embrace of social justice, or as Archbishop Vigano explained, really in some cases, even doctrines of demons. But we'll see where this goes. We shall keep you updated, but it's really important, folks. Even though not all of us are Catholic, this church, of course, is the church of over 1 billion people. And so very, very significant. Speaking of the church, the Washington state government has just taken aim at one of Catholicism's most sacred practices. That is, of course, the confession booth. And historically speaking, you had protection for absolute confidentiality when you went to the confession booth and you talked to your Catholic priest and told him what you had done, and he would give you some penance to do, whether it be say some Hail Marys and some Our Fathers or whatever. Under this new Washington state law, signed into law by Governor Bob Ferguson on May 2nd, Catholic priests will have to break the seal of confession in certain cases. Now, here we're talking about child abuse, and I think it's hard to imagine a crime worse or more disgusting or more despicable than child abuse. But at the same time, what does this mean for religious freedom? And is this just the camel's nose under the tent, right? Are they going to use this and say, well, other crimes are pretty serious too. Maybe they should have to report on this, or maybe they should have to report on that. And so in a rare moment of unity, even a lot of Protestants have been calling this out and saying, hey, guys, this is religious liberty. You cannot force Catholic priests to do this. So we'll keep you updated on what happens here. The statute says, except for members of the clergy, no one shall be required to report under this section when he or she obtains the information solely as a result of privileged communication as provided in RCW 560-060. So we'll keep you updated. Hugely significant. And, of course, the governor there says he's Catholic, Bob Ferguson. Said he felt it was pretty straightforward. He says his uncle was a Jesuit priest and he's been to confession, but he felt this legislation was important for protecting kids, which if they were really interested in protecting kids, maybe they'd stop filling the schools with porn and sexualization. But anyways, that's what they say. Now, big news here in Florida. The state government has now just banned what's called geoengineering and chemtrails. Our governor here in Florida posted this on Twitter. He said, Florida is not a testing ground for geoengineering. We already do not permit this type of activity, but we are going to the next step to ensure it does not happen in this state. As soon as it reaches my desk, I will be signing the recently passed Senate Bill 56 to prohibit the release of chemicals into our skies to alter the weather or atmosphere. Free state of Florida means freedom from governments or private actors unilaterally applying chemicals or geoengineering to people or public spaces. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Legislature. Really, really appreciate it. Now, some sad news. Rhinos in the U.S. Senate have effectively killed the nomination of the great Ed Martin to be U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. He had been in line. He actually was serving as acting U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., and he was doing an incredible job at that. But Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who, yes, he voted to approve Merrick Garland, the guy who weaponized the DOJ to target conservatives. That was fine, but not Ed Martin, right? Ed Martin is apparently much more scary. I want to show you this little clip.
He is, I don't believe he's being advanced to the markup. I met with Mr. Martin. He seems like a good man. Most of my concerns related to January 6th, and he built a compelling case on some of the 1512 prosecutions that were probably heat of the moment bad decisions, but where we probably have a difference is I think anybody that breached the perimeter should have been in prison for some period of time. Whether it's 30 days or 3 years is debatable, but I have no tolerance for anybody who entered the building on January the 6th, and that's probably where most of the friction was.
I see. So he disagreed with you on that?
Yeah, plenty of tolerance for Merrick Garland, but no tolerance for somebody who recognizes the horror that was committed against the mostly peaceful protesters on January 6th. North Carolina, hope you're paying attention. Yeah. Now, thankfully, President Trump did not throw Ed under the bus. In fact, this is brilliant. In a Thursday post on his social media site, Trump said Martin was going to serve as the head of the new weaponization working group and the U.S. pardon attorney from his new post at the office of the Deputy Attorney General. Trump said Ed will make sure we finally investigate the weaponization of our government under the Biden regime and provide much needed justice for its victims. So kudos, Ed. Ed, of course, has been a guest on this program multiple times. We appreciate him very much and all the great work he did as U.S. Attorney for D.C. and looking forward to what comes out of his new position in the DOJ. Now, Tina Peters, of course, is right now rotting in prison in Colorado, the Communist Republic, People's Republic of Colorado, because she exposed the massive levels of election fraud, and she wouldn't be quiet about it. Thankfully, Donald Trump is speaking out about this as well. Check it out. So we have Donald Trump here warning that criminals, violent illegals are running wild, and instead the state of Colorado decided to jail a 69-year-old Gold Star mother who worked to expose and document Democrat election fraud. Trump says she's an innocent political prisoner being horribly and unjustly punished in the form of cruel and unusual punishment. He says this is communist persecution by the radical left Democrats to cover up their election crimes, and the DOJ has now been instructed to take, he says, all necessary action to help secure the release of this hostage being held in a Colorado prison by the Democrats for political reasons. So, wow. Kudos to Donald Trump. Keep fighting the good fight. Meanwhile, Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman from Colorado, just wrote a letter to Kash Patel over at the FBI asking him to investigate the violations of Tina Peters' rights. And folks, I will remind you, violation of rights under color of law is a felony, a very serious one that can carry decades in jail and even the death penalty if somebody dies as a result. So it's be interesting to see what the FBI comes up with. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia, has just hit a home run with an incredible post she just put on social media. And I, for one, am glad she said it. Some of these things needed to be said. I'm just going to read you part of what she had to say. She says, I gave my vote for a Biden Democrat funding and policy continuing resolution once because my president asked me to, but I will not do it again. Going forward, earning my vote for funding and policies will be defined by these issues. I will not vote to fund a single penny or bullet to Ukraine, regardless of a useless mineral deal that the American people do not care about or want. Okay, interesting. She goes to Iran. She says, let the countries in that region of the world deal with them as they choose, not America. We have an enemy that has literally been murdering, raping, and stealing from Americans for years. I've never seen a Houthi, but I've seen and heard the horror and heartbreak from American families about their family members murdered by the cartel's crimes and drugs. She also says she will not vote to fund a CDC that keeps the failed and dangerous mRNA COVID vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule. Thank you, Congresswoman. She says, I will not vote to fund reconciliation and tax law that raises taxes on hardworking small business owners and does not include the president's tax campaign promises of no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. For the love of God, give American people and those who have suffered and worked the hardest a break. Agree 100%. She also says, make the Doge cuts permanent. This is one of the most important patriotic efforts to gut the bloated and failing government of extreme and outrageous corruption, fraud, waste, and putrid spending. And then finally, she says, I will not vote for a single penny to fund anything involved in the trans agenda and child abusive medical industry that lies to children about their gender and sexuality and performs any level of sex changes on minors. There are only two genders. Thank you, Congresswoman. No federal funding for abortion. I mean, you think that'd be a no-brainer, right? No federal funding for any entity that harvested organs from murdered babies. Okay. And she says if Republicans can't do these things, then they have no idea why they won the election. And I agree with her 100%, folks. We got to stop playing around with this. We have a rare opportunity to make some progress. Let's not waste it. Now, Trump has claimed victory in bringing about a ceasefire between the governments of India and Pakistan. He says we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed, and I'm so very proud of that. I just got back from India a couple weeks ago, right before all this craziness broke out. Here's Donald Trump.
We're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it.
Yeah, right. A lot of trade with you guys, but you got to stop it, all right? Trump administration also has fully implemented the defunding of the UN Population Fund. That's the UN agency in charge of reducing the population of the world. Thank you, Donald Trump, for that. They actually got caught helping the Chinese regime do forced abortions some years. So we're very grateful for them. Now, a tariff update. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that U.S. tariffs were going to go from 145 to 30% on China, and China's were going to go from 125% to 10% on us. We'll keep you updated on that, folks. Obviously, very significant. Now, on this topic of the economy, we're going to do a longer segment on this, but all over the country, states are now looking at and even passing legislation to bring in transactional gold, where you can buy and sell goods or services in gold or silver. Arkansas signed that into law. Florida is going to be next, and we'll do a longer segment on this, but you can go check out my articles. I did a big one in the Epic Times and then a smaller one in the New American Magazine, so go check those out. Also, Trump is talking about South Africa again at a press conference. I want you to see this. It's something we've been talking about for years and years here on this program. Check it out.
Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States, right, where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something. But we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of. But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about.
Folks, my first article on this, I used to live in South Africa. 2012, we did a cover story called Genocide and Communism Threaten South Africa. It is absolutely happening, and we have to stop pretending like it's not. Before we go to break, I do want you to get over to preparewithsentinel.com, folks. They've got an incredible deal right now. This is actually the company I use to get everything I need to prepare my family for whatever may be coming. And right now, if you get over to Prepare with Sentinel, you can get the 4-week food kit, and you're going to get 4 free 72-hour kits when you buy the 4-week food kit. And folks, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on between the wars and the communist Chinese and the craziness going on in the dollar and the market. And we have got to make sure we and our families are prepared. That's why I trust My Patriot Supply. I've been using them for years. It's America's largest emergency preparedness company. And for a very limited time, you can go get that 4-week emergency food supply, and you're going to get 4 free 72-hour food kits. That's an extra 12 days worth of food, absolutely free. It's delicious food. It's over 2,000 calories a day. You're going to get it free and fast in terms of shipping. We can't control what the Chi-Coms do. We can't control what the Iranians do. We can't even control what the U.S. government does, for crying out loud. But we can control whether our family is prepared for tough times or not. So preparewithsentinel.com. Also, go check out our friends at classicalconversations.com, folks. If you have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews or even neighbors and you don't want them brainwashed with wokeness, but you want them to get a real education, go to classicalconversations.com/LSM. It's classicalconversations.com/LSM. And stay tuned. We're going to be right back here on the Sentinel Report with much more.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Thanks so much for being with us, folks. Our next guest is somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a long time. He and I have spoken at different conferences together, and he's done a lot of work. In fact, I've seen a lot of his YouTube videos over the years. He's got some very, very impressive research. And with all of the hysteria about UFOs almost dominating the news cycle, it seems like the last few years it's just been constant in Congress and in the mainstream media about aliens and UFOs and what is the government hiding. I suspect a nefarious agenda. And our next guest has researched this more than just about anybody I can think of. His name is Alex Marzulli. He's also a researcher. He teaches at conferences. And he's got a lot of books, dozens of films that he has made. His newest book is called Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. LA, welcome to the program. It's great to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me here. It's great.
Absolutely. So just recently, Missouri Congressman Eric Burlison was talking about this issue of UFOs again. I want to go to a clip of that, and then we'll come back and get your response.
As you know, I've been on the Oversight Committee and the UAP Task Force to try to identify and disclose. In fact, I don't mind saying I've been reaching out to Trump's campaign and to his policy team, trying to get them to consider UFO disclosure.
What have they told you?
Do an executive order on that. And I think that Chuck Schumer, so one thing I think Chuck Schumer and I can find an agreement on is that the American people, really the world, deserves to know this.
Let me drill down on that. You say you've reached out to the White House about it. What have they told you?
So right now I'm chasing down the proper person, but I've been reaching out to people that are in Trump camp that I know.
So what's your sense? What's your feeling? What happens here with disclosures, transparency, maybe declassification of any kind?
I think Trump he sees himself as the people's president, and I think that if the American people, and there's an outcry for people that want the information, I think that Trump will deliver, because he sees his role as working for the American people and not the other way around.
If that is put forward, declassified, a report, whatever, what do you think we would see on that front?
Look, I hope we get some answers one way or the other, but whether we go back to what really happened at Roswell, what if there was any attempts to cover that up, every event that we've been investigating, that the UFO community has been investigating, I would like to get answers to those events.
Fascinating stuff. LA, what do we make of this? I mean, first, let's start off with just the massive levels of interest that we seem to see over the last few years. And it's bipartisan, right? You just heard the congressman say they've got the UAP committee now that's looking into this. What do we make of this renewed interest? Why is everybody talking about this now?
Well, that's a really good question. In 2017, Commander David Fravor appeared on Tucker Carlson's show. This was the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. This was a nexus for the creation of the book, Rungs of Disclosure. And I'm watching Commander David Fravor, and the introduction from Tucker Carlson was something like this. Commander David Fravor is an F-18 pilot, and UFOs used to be something that tinfoil hat-wearing people and conspiracy theorists promulgated, but maybe we shouldn't think so anymore. Commander David Fravor joins us, F-18 pilot, and they bring on Fravor. This guy's the best of the best of the best, so it's a triptych. You got Tucker here, you got Commander David Fravor in the middle, and on the third panel is a UFO. I mean, it's at one time classified footage, but there it is, as plain as day. And I'm watching this thing on Tucker, and I'm thinking to myself, You have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. This is, this isn't some guy in Pascagoula, whatever. Hey, I saw, a UFO. Blah. This is like the best of the best of the best. You don't get to fly an F-18 if you're Elmer Fudd. It's not going to happen. So the bottom line is that was the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. Since then, the book has 17, but the website rungs of disclosure. Every time we go up another rung, I do a video on it. I talk about it. So the website, rungsofdisclosure.com, is interactive. It's ongoing. And I think the biggest revelation to me, even though I knew about it, was the admission by David Grush, a whistleblower, in the halls of Congress when Nancy Mace is doing a back and forth. And here's another stand-up guy. They try to discredit him and all this other stuff. But Nancy Mace goes, do we have crash craft UFOs in our possession? He says, yes. Yes, we do. Then she goes, well, do we have the pilots of these crash craft? And he answers and says, yes, we have biologics. How about that for a little bit of a duck and cover answer? And she goes, well, are these biologics human or non-human? David Grush looks right up at Nancy Mace and goes, non-human biologics. And I mean, that is one of the most startling admissions by anybody in the halls of Congress. This guy's under oath. I'm a student of body language. He's telling you the truth as he knows it. And the fact that he would say we have bodies in our possession is unbelievable. And that became, of course, one of the rungs on the ladder of disclosure.
Yeah, this is fascinating because I remember even as a kid, aliens, like you said, were kind of a fringe topic. It was the kooks, it was the weirdos, the beam me up kind of people, and now it's being discussed at the highest levels in the media, in Congress. I want to move to another very significant question. We've had people on this program in the past who have argued that we're more likely dealing with demonic entities rather than space aliens. What do you think these things are? I mean, assuming there really are these unidentified aerial objects and assuming there are some sort of living beings inside of them, what are we dealing with here?
It's a very complex question, And when I'm lecturing or I have time to really unpack that, I can go point by point by point and really build a case. But I've only got a few minutes with you. So I've got to drag your audience right into the deep end of the pool. And that's where we're going to go. What we are looking at is the seed of the dragon, the seed of the serpent. Let me just ask you something, Alex. Is it okay to abduct a 5-year-old boy and implant him? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's wicked.
Okay, of course it's wicked, especially against his parents. I mean, the parents are going, yeah, go ahead and take my son. So we removed an implant from a man who was 45, but he was abducted at 5 years old, and he was implanted at 5 years old. That's in one of our films on abductions. What we are looking at is a breeding program, and we shouldn't be surprised on this at all, because the Genesis 3:15 narrative states this, that the seed of the dragon, the seed of Satan, will be at war, at enmity with the seed of the woman. Coming from a seed of the woman is the proto-evangelion, the Messiah. That happened 2,000 years ago. That defeats the dragon. But guess what? We get from Daniel 2:43, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Whose seed are we talking about? Well, it's not human beings. So my whole worldview is going from a supernatural, biblical, prophetic worldview. And what we're looking at here are interdimensional entities with a very nefarious agenda that ties back into ancient prophetic texts that most of the church won't even address or talk about. So the people in the churches are completely ignorant. And the fact that our government and the media has always painted, let me get a prop here, has always painted this as what? Tinfoil hat wearing people. Anybody who talks about UFOs is wearing a tinfoil hat. Well, what do you do with that in the halls of Congress when you have people that are stating that we have retrieved craft? Not only retrieved craft, but the bodies of these entities. What we are looking at is the end game. And I'll tell you why, Alex, because when they show up, everything changes in an absolute instant. Think about that. When they show up, the entire global paradigm shifts and changes in a nanosecond, faster than a New York minute. Because when these guys show up in their craft, and it's just not one, it's multiple crafts over the cities of the world. More than likely, this is conjecture on my part, but you get a nuclear device going off anywhere on this planet, What's that going to do? It creates the greatest climate of fear that humanity has ever experienced collectively. And you remember, I'm on your show right now, and I'm saying this a priori, weeks, months, maybe years before the event. But you get a nuke going off, and what is just recently in the news, Pakistan and India, they are two nuclear powers, and they're, playing footsie with each other, with drones and missiles and all. Yeah. All it takes is one. And because of the internet, the globe is completely connected in ways that are unprecedented in all of history. And you get a nuke going off, it creates the greatest collective fear that humanity has ever experienced. That's when these guys show up. They will tell us that, we created all life on this planet. We seeded all life on this planet. We genetically manipulated early man. We started the world's religions, started the world's civilizations. Now, at this critical juncture in human history, we are back to usher mankind into a golden age. This is the coming great deception. I've been warning of this for 30 years, and I think we're that close to it.
That is an absolutely fascinating take, LA. And so there are obviously a lot of questions that could be asked here. The first, and the one that pops into my mind at least, is if this is so clear from the text of the scriptures, why is so much of the church choosing to remain silent? I can't remember the last time I heard a regular old pastor talk about something like this.
And you're not going to, but this is what I challenge the church. Are we the people that believe in floating accents, talking donkeys, virgin births, men that walk on water that's changed into wine, and I could go on, but you get my point. Or do we really believe that? Or do we just sit and have a form of religion but deny its power? I would definitely point to the latter. And unfortunately, the church is completely ignorant of the scriptures, which I've already mentioned, Genesis 3:15. Pastors have no idea what that is. They don't teach it. They're not taught it in seminary. So when they go to their congregation, we're not sure what that means. Or when the Nephilim actually begin to manifest, which, by the way, is the reason for the flood of Noah, and Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. Oh, gee, have you seen David, the film series? It's like it's on Prime Video. Yep. It's so well done. It's amazing. And I'm going to try to get one of the producers on my show. This is one of the first mainstream shows I've ever seen that actually portrays the Nephilim in the way that they were. And they tell you exactly what the Nephilim are: the progeny, the offspring of fallen angels and human women coming together. Gee, doesn't the Bible tell us exactly what happened? But see, because we've got this truncated view of the supernatural, it's like, look, people have bought our videos. There are 10 DVDs that we have on the subject. They've given them to their pastors, and their pastors will say things like, well, I just need the Holy Spirit to lead me, and thanks for giving me this, but this is too far out for me. So what is he going to do when stuff really starts manifesting? Yeah. What is he going to do? Because let me just ask you this, Alex. How do you get to a one world government and a one world religious system? What event completely changes all the paradigms, all the religious structures on the planet? It's right here. This is it, baby. This is it.
So, LA, considering what you're saying, and before we wrap today, we're running up on the clock, but I got to ask you, too, if you think there's already some kind of collaboration between these entities and people. But
absolutely.
I mean, what does this mean for the church? I mean, what does this mean for an everyday, regular Christian watching this program? Goes to a normal church, never heard any of this, and they're thinking, what relevance does this have? Does my life change as a result of this? Do I live differently as a result of this? I mean, what are the implications of this, the practical implications of this for Christians?
Well, I mean, let's walk through it. Jesus warns us to be like the days of Noah. So, I mean, this is what I mean. I'm on for 15 minutes. We could spend another 15 minutes just on unpacking what the days of Noah look like. And why would Jesus warn us that it would look like the days of Noah? And why would Jesus warn us that men and women would faint from fear for what is coming upon the earth? These are our Lord's words to us. And the church just turns the page and, come next Wednesday for the midweek Bible study and potluck dinner. And it's like you just want to scream because he's warning us. Even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. Even the elect would be deceived. Look, I'm just one guy here. But I mean, I've dedicated my life to this. The Lord called me into this. I'm a worship leader. I'm a musician, professional, classically trained musician. I've written, oratorios and orchestral pieces with full-blown orchestras and choirs and all that stuff. But the Lord changed my ministry about 30 years ago, and here we are. 34 films later and 14 books. And many of them are on, the whole UFO disclosure. I want to show you something. This is a piece of metal that we discovered and dug up on film at Roswell and the debris field, which is in the middle of nowhere. We've had this tested, and it's an aluminum alloy that doesn't really match anything. We looked at it under a scanning electron microscope. It's all folded in on itself. How does that happen? I mean, this is real research. We've got deathbed confessions from military people who saw the bodies, who handled the wreckage. I mean, how much information do we need? And of course, to cover up and disparaging anyone who poked their nose into this thing. And if you got too close, you could be killed. All that changed in 2017, which brings us full circle, Tucker Carlson, and the first rung on the ladder of disclosure. But we're up to rung number 21 right now, which is just, and it's not going away. I mean, they're constantly talking about this thing. But, you know, again, when they show up, and if you want, folks, if you want to see something, and this is how the game is played, this is predictive programming. If you go to YouTube and you type in 2024 Super Bowl, hello down there, it's a 1 and 30-second ad in the 2024 Super Bowl. And what it shows is mile-wide craft over New York City, a little diner out in the west someplace, like in West Texas or whatever, Paris, France, right by the Eiffel Tower, and a building in Japan. What we are looking at is predictive programming. And you watch that, oh, it's all, oh, LA, you're putting too much into it. Am I really? Am I really? Watch that. Because they are telegraphing what they know is going to happen at some point. And I know, realize that stuff, that sounds like the stuff of conspiracy theory. But remember, Alex, I'm warning a priori, well ahead of the event. I'm telling people what this is. I'm calling it out a priori. And it's going to happen. Trust me, it is going to happen. The fact that Congress is constantly talking about this and looking for answers. They've got the bodies, Alex. They've got the bodies. They've got the craft. We're already seeing some of that back-engineered stuff that was disseminated. That's Philip Corso's book, The Day After Roswell. I mean, it's a very, very deep and very dark subject, especially the cattle mutilations. They are using bovine blood because the blood from a cow can be used interchangeably in a human transfusion. They are using that to create artificial wombs. I'm not making this stuff up. I wish I were. But
so, Ellie, what does this mean for a Christian? I mean, do we live any differently now that we see? I mean, what are the practical implications for my day-to-day life of this? And I do want to get back to this question of what the government knows already. But how does this change my life?
Well, it should change your life dramatically, because if this is the coming great deception and Congress is talking about it, maybe the church needs to wake up and start talking about it too. Maybe you need to get and show, you know, your friends and your loved ones some of this information, because it's not conspiracy theory anymore. It's not. We've got.
And you think a lot of Christians are going to be deceived when this happens, LA? You think these things are going to show up and Christians are going to say, oh, maybe we were wrong about God, that these aliens actually did seed life on this planet?
Is there a great falling away? That even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. And I don't have the answers, all the answers, but I can tell you this, that, and I've said this before, when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. And here's a track.
So you think Christians will be raptured when this is going on, or before?
I'll illustrate it for you.
Okay.
So when the rapture of a church happens, we go up, they come down. That's, tongue in cheek here. But I want to read you something. This was written years ago. This is a little tract that we give out for free if you buy anything. And it was written by Barbara Marciniak, who's channeling information. So when you channel, you go into a trance and an entity comes into you. And this entity, of course, we have no idea who it is. It's calling itself the Pleiadians. Listen to what this entity says. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. This is what the New Agers are promulgating. Mm-hmm. If human beings do not change, that they did not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth, they could not be here, then Earth, in its love for its own initiation, is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. There is a potential, here it is, there is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. Alex, that was written by the New Agers. It's channeled information. I heard this 50 years ago, 5 decades ago, when I was in the New Age, when my third eye was open. I was living, in an ashram with a guru. I mean, I heard this 50 years ago, and this is why we have it in the track. They're already explaining away the rapture of the church. I'll read it again. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of earth changes do not fit here any longer. They have already explained away the rapture of the church. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel. The dead in Christ will rise first. We who are alive and remain will be caught up together with those in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. I'm not making this stuff up. It's there. All I'm doing is connecting the dots.
Yeah, this is fascinating, LA. And so I got to ask you, too, we keep hearing of possible collaboration between these entities and government officials at the highest levels, maybe some of the secret mystery schools. I mean, you mentioned some of the channeling. I've looked into some of these, too. Alice Bailey comes to mind, channeling these ascended masters.
Right.
And I, of course, I don't regard the Book of Enoch as scripture, although I know the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and others do. But I can't help but think of some of what is revealed in there about these watchers. Is there collaboration right now between humans and these entities, in your opinion? And what's going on?
Absolutely. They are back engineering craft. There is this quid pro quo. They are creating hybrid beings. And I get it, folks. Some of you out there have never heard this. You're going, well, why haven't I heard any of this in church? If you were going to keep one book, and you mentioned the Book of Enoch, if you're going to keep one book out of the hands of pastors and out of the hands of a church, it's the Book of Enoch. Why? Because it explains exactly what happens in the antediluvian world. It explains the mingling of the seed that we hear about in Genesis 3:15. So pastors that are coming up, right, you talk about, just think about Harvard University and Columbia and Yale. They used to be bastions of Christian thought. Now they're bastions of liberalism. Why? Because all you got to do is slowly bring in liberal professors and you change the whole ambiance. You change the whole structure. You change the whole DNA of those schools. Well, it's the same thing with the seminaries. You bring pastors in, you never teach them about Genesis 3:15, Genesis 6. There are no Nephilim. You teach the bogus Sethite theory. You never, no matter what, never read the Book of Enoch. You'll go to hell if you read the Book of Enoch. So the pastors come in, they have no clue what's going on. They don't have answers to any of this. We do. That's why we made the films and write the books, to warn the church of what is coming. Because you know what? I don't know how it's going to play out. My theory is we go up and they come down. And that was sort of, proven, not proven, but bolstered by the channeled information from Barbara Marciniak. We are the Pleiadians. There could be other scenarios. There could be other scenarios where they just show up and the church is still here. And then we go up. So, how does this falling away? And then when you look at the 10 virgins, the parable of the 10 virgins, 5 have oil in their lamp and 5 do not. 5 they're all waiting for the bridegroom. They all know the bridegroom is coming, but only 5 have oil. So you can think on that, ruminate on that. There's a lot of different interpretations of that. So I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't want one, to what's going to happen in the future. But I just know that what was written will come to pass. What was foretold is unfolding. And we are right on the cusp of seeing something that is perhaps, well, we already are with AI. That's an unprecedented, which ties into all this. You can't tell truth from fiction anymore. But I think we're close to seeing something. I really do.
Well, I want to dig into. I'm keeping you a little bit longer than expected because this is so fascinating, LA. I want to dig into the Book of Enoch for a moment. I think a lot of people who are watching us now probably have never heard of it. I've read it. I know they found a copy with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I know the Ethiopian Orthodox Church regards it as scripture, but I know for whatever reason it was not included in our Bibles in the West. The Council of Nicaea decided, I guess, not to include that. For the folks who've never heard of the Book of Enoch, give us a little background on it. What is it? Why is it so important? And why do you think it was kept out of the Bible?
Well, Enoch 1 is very important. And Jude quotes the Book of Enoch. So let's just walk through this for a second. So Jude is Jesus's brother. So back then, it's not like you go and get a book. You've got a scroll. So this is conjecture, and I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek and a little glib here. But you don't quote something unless it's part of who you are, right? Now, I quoted just a few minutes earlier, that passage, Jesus comes down and we all go up and meet him in the clouds. I quoted that verbatim. That's part of who I am. I repeat that every single day. Jude is quoting from the Book of Enoch in his little letter. So the question is, who told him to read the Book of Enoch? This is where it gets, tongue-in-cheek here. Did Jesus walk in with a scroll and go, hey, Jude, why don't you check out the scroll here? It's called the Book of Enoch. after I'm gone in a few years or whatever, you might use some of this. Now, I'm not saying that happened. Please, I'm being very glib here, but it could have. It could have. It's part of Jude's wheelhouse. If you were going to keep one book, it's the pseudepigraphical book of Enoch, which explains the union of the fallen angels and the human women coming together, creating the Nephilim, which is in Genesis 6. And then when the children come into the promised land, children of Israel come into the promised land, and that mandate goes out, kill everybody, men, women, children, burn, all the animals, burn everything. Well, what the heck is that? Is that a loving God? And I've seen pastors tap dance around that, faster than a vaudevillian tap dance act. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch these guys, go through theological loopholes. Excuse me, what's going on here? These are Nephilim tribes, and they're not human. They have no soul, and that's why the mandate comes out to wipe them all out. And they're here, and they're back, and they're manifesting. And the church is so asleep for the most part. I live in Southern California. In the last 30 years, I've been invited to 2 churches in the last 30 years.
Wow.
That just tells you where things are at in California.
That's pretty amazing. We're almost out of time, but on this topic of disclosure, which I know you are still actively working on, what comes next in terms of disclosure? I mean, is Trump going to declassify a bunch of these documents, do you suppose? Is Congress going to unearth something important? What's going to happen over the next few years when it comes? Obviously, more and more talk about it. There's talk of declassification. What might we expect?
Well, in order to have anything happen, somebody's got to get into Area 51. Somebody's got to find out what Wright-Patterson has. We know that the wreckage from Roswell was flown to Wright-Pat, and there's back engineering that has taken place. We know that bodies are in Area 51. There's been never a president that I'm aware of that has penetrated either Wright-Pat Field or Area 51. It doesn't exist. So what you have is exactly what Eisenhower warned us against. You've got the military-industrial complex, which is accountable to nobody, to no one. And this is why, just think about this. I'll go off on a little tangent here. That why don't the American people know anything about Crooks and the Butler assassination attempt? Who's got the power to cover that up? Why did they cremate the body 10 days later? Why is it that, little short female Secret Service agents are in there? Why is it that no one looked at the roof, and then the head of the Secret Service, she's no longer there. Oh, we didn't put anybody on the roof because the roof was too steep. Meanwhile, there's people walking all over the roof. Why is it that the body lays on that roof for so many hours? Why don't we have a congressional investigation? Why? Just let that sink in, folks. Let that sink in. Because those are the same guys who are definitely connected to all this information. So we have a country, we get to live here. That's about it. That's about it. But it's not by the people, of the people, and for the people. It's not.
Very good. Before we let you go, LA, some takeaways. I asked you before, how does a Christian live differently as a result of this? I mean, should parents be teaching their children something? Obviously, you mentioned pastors ought to be investigating this and sharing stuff with their churches. But what's the takeaway for a regular Christian?
If you've got kids and teenagers, you need to show them that these are not extraterrestrials. You need to push back against the idea of the plurality of worlds, which now the Vatican is actually teaching. You need to tell them that you need to tell them rebuke first and ask questions later. People need to put on the armor of God on a daily basis. You see something in the sky, rebuke it first, ask questions later. Don't entertain it, for crying out loud. You need to tell people far and wide that this is the coming great deception, because this changes everything. When they appear, it changes everything in a nanosecond. Go back and look at the prophetic literature, which is in our Bibles. Men faint from fearfulness coming upon the earth. What the heck is that? Why would Jesus say something like that? People don't want to hear that, but it's there, and it's Jesus' own words. And people need to understand that if I'm right, and I believe I am, we're under disclosure, that we are going to see sooner or later the manifestation. And if the church is still here, wow. You're going to watch people fall away from the faith faster than you can even imagine. Because it changes everything.
And they're going to start worshiping these alleged aliens then, or themselves?
No, these are fallen angels.
Yeah. That's why I say alleged aliens. But so what? These fallen away Christians will start worshiping them?
That's a really good question. This is conjecture on my part, but yes, There'll
Wow.
be a new, what does the Bible tell us? There'll be a new one world religion and a one world government. How do you get there? You get there by this. This changes everybody's paradigm. This, especially when they see Muhammad and Jesus and Krishna and Buddha come walking out of UFOs. When they see that, that changes everything. And people go, LA, that's absurd. I'm not, where do you think I'm getting this from? Do a search on the Raelians. That's exactly what they promulgate. I show a clip of them saying that. That's what they believe. Ascended
Fascinating.
master. Here we are.
Absolutely fascinating. L.A. Marzulli, thank you very much. The book, folks, the newest one, he's done quite a few books and quite a few films. The newest one, again, is Rungs of Disclosure, Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. L.A., is there a website people can find you? I know you got a lot of stuff on YouTube. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
Yeah, lamarzulli.com, lamarzulli.com. On YouTube, we have 237 subscribers, 237,000 subscribers. So we're coming up to the 250,000 mark. But lamarzulli.com, rungsofdisclosure.com. We have a new film coming out on the Shroud of Turin, which we didn't have time to talk about. But we have 10 films on the UFO phenomena. Everything from Close Encounters, Lights in the Sky, to very up-close craft, to the beings inside of the craft, to the abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles, 2 films on Roswell. Finally, what is the truth? So we've done the work. We've done the homework.
Not going to lie, this is absolutely fascinating. L.A., thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
All right, folks. Fascinating discussion. Stay with us. We're going to be right back with a discussion on wokeness by an academic who is leading the charge against it in the academic realm. Stay tuned.
In 1776, a nation was born, forged in the crucible of revolution. Brave men and women stood together fighting for freedom, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile. For free activation, use promo code Newman.
Welcome to the Sentinel Report. Alex Newman, your host here. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Obviously, woke has infected every area of our lives, and a lot of it, of course, is coming out of academia. But so far, we haven't really seen organized, thoughtful resistance to this, as Elon Musk calls it, mind virus, coming out of academia itself. Well, that is changing, and one of the men leading that resistance effort joins us today. His name is Zvi Shalem. He does a lot of different things. He's involved in a Science versus Woke manifesto. He's going to be one of the speakers at a major conference coming up at Buckingham about these very issues, and he's got a very illustrious career himself. He has been involved in mathematics and physics. He's at the Israel Center for Excellence Through Education, does a lot of work in math, physics, and science, and again, he's helping lead the counterattack. Zvi, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us. Give us a 2-minute understanding of the problem with woke in academia. What's the goal? Why is it so dangerous?
All right, so thank you very much. The problem with woke, not in the sense of just crazy students running around, but in the deeper sense, taking into account the genealogy of these ideas that go back all the way to Marx and even Hegel, and even before that. But what we have to understand is that woke isn't just a set of different ideas that can be discussed in an academic setting or rational debate. Woke represents an alternative epistemology. It's a fancy word. It simply means a way of understanding how the world works. For example, the way they use words is absolutely different than the way you would use words in an everyday conversation or in science. In both of these realms, you try to use words in order to describe reality, communicate, express yourself. But under the woke epistemology, words aren't used for all of those things. Words are used in order to get the other person, audience, to act in a certain way and feel in a certain way. And a lot of their technique is simply based on language games. They flip the meaning of words. For example, critical thinking, that's a big one. So with critical thinking, you would assume that means thinking independently, relating the ideas to evidence, worrying about consistency. But that's not at all what critical theory means. The critical theory is neo-Marxism. But critical theory in practice simply creates students that think that their antagonistic feelings of society are critical thinking. So the more things they find to hate about society and say what's wrong with them, that means they are more of a critical thinker. And that's absolutely incompatible with doing science, because if you study a certain topic in science, you might find points where you could criticize society. It can happen, but with the woke, it's dogmatic criticism, and you could say, and it's strategic. So what they're able to create is tribal allegiance to malleable terms. That's a way to frame what their project is doing, which means we have people in the academy, for example, who have a tribal allegiance. They feel they're on the same team doing something, reconstructing society, tearing what's bad, tearing it down. So they have this tribal allegiance to each other and to these malleable terms. For example, the oppressed, all right? So the oppressed is a term that can be made to mean different things. For example, you could say that the Hamas terrorists who attack Israel are the oppressed, or a male who wants to participate in female boxing competition is not allowed to do so, is the oppressed. So once you have these allegiance to a term that somebody else can inject any meaning he wants into it, that means he who declares the meaning of the words at any certain moment has the absolute power over you, because you gave, if you're in this tribe, you gave up your individual thinking, and you will never say, wait, I didn't sign up for that. I don't think I ever said that males and female sports make sense. But if you express those ideas, and you challenge the narrative of those who assign themselves as a representative of the oppressed and get to define all the words, then you're the extreme right. And it doesn't matter if you're black or homosexual or whatever. Actually, it's even worse. If you're black, for example, and you challenge them, then you're a very big threat, and they will come after you because you're destroying their power base, their claim to power, claim to moral authority. And then you will find out that you will no longer go black, for example.
Mm-hmm. Svi, you had a really good elevator pitch that you mentioned to me on really the way to really succinctly describe what woke is about. Give us that, and then in the last minute we have left, let's talk about how academia can fight back here.
All right. So the basic elevator pitch, since Marx, is very, very simple. Marx, in his philosophical and economic manuscripts in 1844, says that in order to destroy private property, we have to destroy religion, the state, morality, the family, science, art, etc., like everything. And then we can get to be a species being, whatever that means. So basically, the elevator speech means destroy everything, give me absolute power, and everything will be okay. Okay? So it's absolutely amazing that with that elevator speech, the Marxists were able to sell that to a liberal modern society that knows how to get spaceships up to the moon. So I mean, aside from that it would be an absolute tragedy to have this crazy evil ideology prevail. It's more than a tragedy. It's like, I don't know, how would you call it? I mean, it's so silly, it's so idiotic. Because
Zvi, and we're almost out of time here, but you've got a big thing coming up, the Buckingham Conference. You guys are working on the Science versus Woke Manifesto.
Yeah.
How and when can people learn more?
All right, so it's being drafted. Very prominent thinkers are coming to this conference. Helen Procrose, who works with James Lindsay. Steven Pinker's coming, Gad Saad, big names. And what I want to help push forward is this idea of a manifesto, because that actually shows why science and woke are a zero-sum game. One of them will prevail, one will not. Because until now, most declarations trying to defend a liberal society and scientific integrity were focusing on things like free speech, which is absolutely important. But there's a reason that free speech is threatened. It's not just, oh no, there's a problem with free speech. There is a specific attack on free speech, an attack that stems from an ideology with very specific goals, with a certain structure, with a belief system, with a strategy. And we have to acknowledge that. We really do have to acknowledge reality. I know today acknowledging reality.
And Zvi, we're out of time in this segment, but I really appreciate you joining us. I can't wait to get you back again as we get closer to the conference. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you very much for joining us, Zvi Shalem. Really appreciate you coming on the Sentinel Report. Thank you, sir. And you folks, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with more here on the Sentinel Report. Thank you. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. That's all we have for you today here on the Sentinel Report, because we are flat out of time. But get over to libertysentinel.org, libertysentinel.org. You can sign up for our free newsletter. You can support our sponsors. You can even make a donation if you want to see more. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.